driving trip through Europe has been taking us south, and now we're well into Italy. After spending the morning touring a Parmigiano Reggiano cheese factory, we headed south over the mountains toward the coast, into the area of Italy called Tuscany. Our destination is the small town of Carrara, nestled at the base of a mountain that is the source of Italy's famous Carrara marble. From a distance, it just looks like the mountain is covered in snow, but as you get closer, you notice that it's just open marble quarries. This is literally a mountain of marble. As we drive up the mountain, we pass many artist studios with sculptures seemingly just strewn about. We did stop into this one and bought a couple of souvenirs. As we continued driving, we saw signs for Marmo Cave quarry tours, so we continued winding up the mountain, hoping we can join one of their tours. The road passed through a number of these narrow tunnels that were used to transport the large blocks of stone. The Marmo mines are unique. Besides the open quarry above, they also bought rights within one of the tunnels, where they opened up a large underground mine in the middle of it. The blocks are cut away with a combination of pneumatic hammers, wedges, drills, and diamond-impregnated wire saws. They then use giant inflatable pillows to break the marble away from the wall. All these stones are special ordered, primarily by artists, to be used for sculptures. After leaving Carrara, we make our way through some quaint little villages on our way to the small city of Lucca. We got there about 5 o'clock, and it was cold and rainy, still having to find a place to stay and a restaurant that was open on a Sunday night. Sightseeing would have to wait for tomorrow. One of the first things you notice in Lucca are the city walls. They're unusually wide, and we joined in on the popular pastime of taking a morning stroll along them. With its trees growing from the roof, it was hard to miss Guinichi Tower. Originally, the kitchen was on the top floor, with the roof serving as the kitchen garden. The Catholic church in town was somewhat of a surprise. San Miguel de Foro, with its beautiful facade dating back to the 13th century. I particularly liked the intricately carved columns, each one in its own unique style. Our last stop was at the Basilica di San Frediano, with its impressive golden mosaic of the Ascension of Christ, which dates back to the 13th century. With plenty of the day ahead of us, we're off to our next destination, Volterra. The picturesque village sits on top of a beautiful Tuscan hill, and it's known for its alabaster. Just outside of town, there are some ruins of a Roman amphitheater. These were actually not unearthed until the 1950s, and before that, it was the site of the town's dump. After entering the town through the Porta Florentina gate, which has convenient parking, we quickly found one of the many alabaster workshops. Even though alabaster and marble might look the same, they're quite different. Alabaster is a type of gypsum, and is quite a bit softer than marble, making it easier to carve and turn. The most desired pieces are translucent, making them especially well suited for lamps.
Just like turning wood, isn't it?
They use the same tools. After looking through a number of shops for that perfect piece we wanted to buy, we ended up really liking the warm colors of this bowl. Getting hungry, we looked in at the restaurant La Pina, recommended by our hotel. It had a great atmosphere, but they weren't serving yet, so we grabbed the snack and moved on to the Volterra Cathedral. This is a nice quiet church and gave us the opportunity to rest our feet. It's going to be a busy day as we say goodbye to Volterra, driving through the countryside to spend the day in Siena before turning our car in Florence. The drive took us through gorgeous rolling hills, and everything was going smooth until we got to the outskirts of Siena, where we were rear-ended at a stop sign. After struggling with the language barrier, we followed the other driver to their insurance company, and it was only an hour later that we were on our way. With Siena located on steep hills, we were pleased to find a number of underground escalators that took us to the main plaza, Piazza di Campo. During the Middle Ages, Siena was one of the powerhouses of the region, with its main rival being Florence. But after its population was decimated by the Black Plague, and Florence aligning themselves with Spain, Siena was conquered by Florence's Medici family in the year 1555. Siena's wealth and power is reflected in its cathedral. Though smaller than the Duomo in Florence, its artistry is spectacular. The three mosaic gables were made in Venice in 1878, and this large one in the center is called the Coronation of the Virgin. If looking up at this spectacular cathedral isn't enough, you just have to look down at the incredible mosaic marble floors. Connected to the cathedral is the Piccolomini Library. These beautiful frescoes depict the life of Siena's Cardinal Ennio Piccolomini, who later became Pope Pius II, and his uncle Cardinal Francisco Piccolomini, the future Pope Pius III. In the center of the library is the sculpture of the Three Graces of Siena, originally found in Rome in the middle of the 15th century. With so much of the artwork overhead, it was really nice of them to provide mirrors, so you could enjoy this gorgeous room without straining your neck. After leaving the library, we walked around the area, looking at the sights and a place for lunch. Located near the Piazza di Campo, we came across this building with this arcade of 3 vaulted frescoes. It turned out to be Loggia della Mercanzia, a combination of lodge and meeting house for the merchants of the city, back when it was built in the mid-1400s. We ended up having pizza for lunch, while enjoying some of our final views of Siena. We avoided the freeways into Florence, opting for the more scenic countryside. It wasn't the easiest thing to navigate the narrow, crowded streets of downtown Florence to turn in our once new-looking rental car. But it wasn't long until we made it to our hotel. We could even see the Duomo if we stuck our head out the window. With a little time left in the afternoon, we headed toward Market Plaza and the famous Florence leather market. This was an interesting wine shop where you can bring your own bottles to be filled. The wine only cost about 2 to 4 euros a bottle, and it wasn't too bad. After having some of our wine, we had a quick dinner of tortellini and veal scallopini, before taking in some of the sights of the city at sunset. We start off the day with breakfast at the Central Market, and then enjoyed some of the works of art displayed at the Piazza Vecchio. Also in the plaza is a full-size copy of Michelangelo's David. We passed on the long lines to see the original. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to see the Uffizi Gallery or any of the other wonderful museums of Florence. Those will have to wait for another trip. Continuing our walk, we crossed the Ponte Vecchio, the old bridge, now known for its many jewelry shops. We were surprised that the price of these cameos weren't that bad. Never finding the number 12 bus stop, we made the long steep walk up the Piazza Michelangelo. But once there, we were treated to some spectacular views. Up here overlooking the city is another copy of Michelangelo's David, this one cast in bronze. A little further up is the Basilica San Miniato al Monte, said to be one of the best Romanesque style of churches in Tuscany. Near the church was a cemetery and mausoleum, as well as the rose garden, with some unique works of modern art. After making our way back down to the city, we treated ourselves to some of our favorite gelato, chocolate and frutta di bosco, which means fruit of the forest, and is a mixture of berries. Now that the long lines from the morning are gone, we're visiting the Duomo. The actual name of the Duomo is Cattedrale di Santa Maria de' Fiori, or in English, the Cathedral of St. Mary of the Flower. The statues under the rose window depict important people from the Tuscan region, including Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Dante, and Filippo Brunelleschi. Besides being a renowned artist, Brunelleschi designed the dome of the church, the largest brick dome in the world. Before entering the church, we took a look at the bronze doors of the baptistry. Once inside, the church's interior is quite plain. The only thing that really stands out is the fresco on the dome. This is Giorgio Vasari's fresco of the Last Supper. A fresco is made by painting onto wet plaster, and this is the largest one in the world. That evening we had dinner with some friends from back home, who just happened to be traveling here at the same time. It is strange to see them in such a different situation. From the roof of the restaurant, we were treated to a spectacular sunset. Today we're taking a vespa tour of the Chianti region just outside of Florence. Chianti is a sub-region of Tuscany. Just like the Parmigiano Reggiano Consortium, this area has its own as well, the Chianti Classico. We stopped in a number of small towns, including one called Cesanova, where we had a local bread called scacciata. It was served with prosciutto, along with a local cheese made from sheep's milk. Most of our time was spent at the La Corte family estate, who made and bottled Chianti Classico wine. The family also grows and bottles olive oil. After pressing, the olive oil is stored in these large terracotta pots. After lunch and a stroll through their gardens, we were soon back on our vespas, heading back to Florence. Tomorrow we take a train to our final destination, Rome.